Hello friends, welcome to first part of our architectural visualization course. I am Oğuz. In this chapter, we will dive into installation of Unreal Engine, explore the interface, and delve into essential settings for architectural visualization. This section serves as an introduction, covering general settings and is moderately important. If you are not new to the program, I recommend just reviewing the settings. Shall we dive inside the Unreal then? For the installation of the engine, download and install the Epic Games Launcher on your computer from the Epic Games website. You will need to create an account on the site, which is a straightforward process. You can also log in existing memberships like Google, Apple, Xbox, etc. After becoming a member and completing the installation, you will encounter a screen like this. As you may know, Epic Games is a gaming platform, and the part that concerns us is the Unreal Engine tab on the left. From this point on, the most relevant sections for us will be the Library and Marketplace tabs. Access to Twinmotion, a visualization program similar to Lumion, is also available from here. If you are looking for quick visualizations in your projects, you can use this Unreal-based software. Moreover, if you don't have plans to generate income from your project, the software is completely free. However, my personal opinion is that software like Twinmotion and Lumion may not provide us with sufficient flexibility. Therefore, we will proceed directly with Unreal for our purposes. Before starting, after installing the engine, click on the small arrow next to the Launch option. Click on the Options tab under the Target Platforms section. If you don't have any intention of releasing your software on these platforms, you can free up significant space on your computer by unchecking the boxes under iOS, Android, and Linux tabs. Let's move on to the project setup. After installing the engine, click on the Launch button. This is a small step for humanity, but big one for you. Here, you will find various templates. Let's choose the ArchViz template directly under Architecture section and create our project by naming Ultimate ArchViz Course. Our entry screen will look like this. First, let's learn the controls. Holding down the right mouse button allows you to rotate the camera. While holding down the right mouse button, you can navigate within the interface using WASD keys. In addition, you can move up and down with E and Q keys. I recommend using these controls. If you want to adjust your speed while moving in the interface, you can change the speed by scrolling the mouse wheel forward and backward. You can also manually adjust the speed from the top right section. First, let's talk about our content browser. This tab is the library where assets in our projects are located, and we will organize it. The more organized we keep it, the easier our works will be in the future. For now, I have color-coded the ArchViz project and blueprints folder in red, indicating that we will access these folders later. The outliner window on the right shows the assets in our scene. This can also be considered as the library of assets in our scene. Just like in the content browser, the more organized we keep it, the easier our work will be. Remember, Unreal provides flexibility, but if you work in a disorganized manner, you can get lost in your own work. When you click on any asset in the scene, its editable data will appear in the Details panel below. You can see how adjusting the fog density value changes the amount of fog in the scene. The World Partition and World Settings tabs are not features I use extensively for ArchViz. In short, as your world grows, the load on your computer increases, and with these tools, you can control when each area is loaded. There's a small Add tab in the upper left. Under this tab, you can quickly add Unreal's basic assets to your scene. Let's add a square light source. Since it's daytime, we can't perceive the light much. But when we turn off the sunlight, we can see the added light along with the other lights. Our goal right now is to understand the logic of Unreal, so I am just touching on these features. In future sections, we will explore the elements we will use in detail, so don't worry. Click on Quixel Bridge in the Add tab. This tab will be the most important online library we use. After logging into Quixel Bridge with your Epic account, all the content will become downloadable. Bridge contains 3D assets created with photogrammetry. You can download and directly add these models to your scene. The nanite quality option you see here is one of the important features that come with Unreal Engine 5. These are high-quality 3D models with large sizes. After downloading, click Add on the right to add the file directly to Content Browser. You can include the static mesh in your scene by dragging it. By the way, there is a feature I forgot to mention earlier. While holding down the right mouse button, you can zoom in and out with C and Z keys. Release the right mouse button to return the camera to its normal state. Bridge also contains pre-configured materials. We can easily download and add many of these materials we are looking for the project. For times when we can't find what we want, we will explore the material system in future lessons. When you add content to your project or content browser, a white star will appear below the added asset. This indicates that the project has not been saved. If your project crashes and you exit without saving, these assets won't be there. Even if your scene is saved, if the project is not saved, the assets will be missing when you reopen it. That's because there is no mesh to place it anymore in the content browser. So, it's advisable to save your project regularly. You can also save the project as a whole with Ctrl+Shift+S. Note that Ctrl+S only saves the scene. Let's move on to the project settings under the Edit tab. Search for Ray Trace to check the boxes. If your graphics card is NVIDIA RTX 2000 series or higher, this technology will be very useful. If your graphics card is not NVIDIA, do not worry. Unreal Engine 5 also comes with Lumen Lightning technology. Besides this setting, search for virtual texture and set the checkboxes as shown here. This feature is useful when your graphics card memory is not sufficient. Let's also click on Plugins under the Edit tab. If you have created the project like I did, you may not need this, but it's worth mentioning. Make sure Movie Render Queue and modeling tools are active. It's better to activate them now. If you activate them later, shader compilation will take longer. Now, let's talk about the post-process volume. The boxes you see here are defined as post-process volumes. Player entering these volumes will experience the environment differently based on the volume settings. When you enter the prepared post-process box here, it adds a stroke effect to 3D models, creating a cartoonish look. Let's control our post-process volume. Type post-process in Add tab and click. You might be wondering if you have to adjust the size of this box every time, but that's not the case. If you search for Unbound under the Details tab and check the box that appears, your post-process will affect the entire world. Let's look at the settings we will use the most. The volume effect increases and decreases the camera's glare. Among the volume methods, I think the second one leaves a more realistic and crystallized effect on the camera. However, instead of using the volume effect within the engine, I prefer to edit it in post-production programs like Adobe Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve after completing the rendering process. This is because the volume effect sometimes causes flash explosions during rendering, which is not the desired result. When we manually adjust this setting, we turn off the automatic brightness adjustments based on the light reflected on our camera screen. Since this automatic adjustments mimics the human eye, manually adjusting it makes the scene more convincing as if it were shot with a real camera. I balance the value by setting it to -2, thinking the scene looks good. When used at low levels, this setting can mimic a real camera. This effect occurs due to the different angles at which the main wavelights of light, green, blue, and red hit the camera when we increase this value. Be careful not to raise it too much, as it can cause nausea. Our camera settings are generally brightness adjustments. If you have a professional camera, you can understand these features more easily. Since we won't change these settings, let's move on for now. Lens flare is an effect caused by reflection of light hitting the camera's lens. However, I should mention that it works together with bloom effect. Additionally, you need to import the desired lens flare as a texture. I think adding this effect in post-editing with other programs produces better results. Vignette. This feature is a shadow cast on the corners of your camera. In cinematography, it is used to direct the viewer's attention to elements in the center of the screen. Depth of field. Explaining this setting now won't make much sense because this setting applies to cameras assigned to the scene. Since we are currently in the viewport camera, any changes we make won't take effect. Under the color grading, you can adjust the temperature to control the warmth and coolness of colors. We usually use this setting to make the distinction between indoor and outdoor spaces. Cold colors dominate outdoors, while warm colors differentiate indoor spaces. This way, indoor spaces can be made more vivid. We see the second section just to the right of the Add tab. This tool is a time interval where we will create our architectural visualization. We will combine the camera shots we create in this tool to make a film. I create our sequence under the ArchViz project with the name Test. By the way, I believe that using the content browser on the left side of the screen will make the scene more efficient. I recommend organizing your interface like me. Of course, first, we need to add a camera under the sequencer. Let's start by adding the most basic scene with a camera. Click on the camera icon to add one. When it's added, we will be seeing through camera view. If you want to exit the view, you basically click on the icon next to camera. The camera will be at frame 0. The transform section is the part that allows us to change the camera's coordinates in the world. By clicking on the small circle in the middle of this section, we create a keyframe to write the camera's position at that moment in sequencer. Let's drag the timeline to frame 150. Currently, our video is set to render at 30 frames per second. You can change this value as you wish, but keep in mind that higher numbers will increase your render time. YouTube is generally set at 48 FPS. For now, we will stick with 30 FPS. To understand how many seconds your video is, divide the total number of frames to frames per second. Currently, 150 divided by 30 equals a total of 5 seconds for our shot. Now, let's create another keyframe or simply press enter. Great! We have created our first animation. Now let's click on the camera icon next to camera cuts to watch the entire sequence. Clicked, rewound, press the spacebar, and our animation is played. We see here, we can update our animation in real time by adding keyframes. In addition, if you remember, I asked you to activate the Movie Render Queue plugin a while ago. Click on the 3 dots you see here, select Movie Render Queue, and click on the icon next to it. This part will be your render settings. Every setting we make here directly determines how the render will be taken and what extension and name the output will have. I usually prefer the output to be in EXR sequence format rather than JPEG. After rendering, we will convert this image series into a video with programs like Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve. Our entry chapter to Unreal was like this.